Uh-huh.
Okay, first trash, these ones on the side, the hate screamers, they should have a AoE silence, but it might just be a frontal cone either way until we work it out. Gonna tank those two kind of out the group, and everything else just like stack up on top of the raid. One tank, probably the feral, tanking the two hate screamers outside, kill stuff, easy. The big giants are basically Quagmiran in Slave Pens, so they've got the same kind of breath attack thing. So if the raid is back, work out how to do this. If the raid is like back where the blue square is, you'll get max range. You want to tank it facing the side, not like away. And then it does its breath. It either hits you as the tank, you're fine. It hits the melee, the person it's targeting stays there. Everyone else can run through, or it hits the range and they can just outrange it because they're probably taunt immune in TBC, unlike here. And then when they die, they can spawn. This one did nothing. They can spawn a whole bunch of different like effects. Either there's a bunch of small adds, there's two big adds, there's poison on the ground, there's a healing and mana restore cloud on the ground. So you want to make sure melee run out before it dies, because they can get fucked otherwise. That's free hydro. Yeah, here's the poison cloud. Like, you want melee to get out before this spawns, so they don't get hit. Hydros, just basically a boss with two phases and some adds when you phase transition. So you see these two flags. If you draw an imaginary line between those, this is, if the boss crosses this line, it phases. So when it's in one phase, you just keep him entirely on that side. When you want to be on the other phase, you keep him entirely on the other side. It is a complete aggro reset every time it phases. So this fight is it's an aggro fight. It's a threat management fight more than anything else. Yeah, I'm not going to go into too much detail about boss fights because there are way better boss guys than I can give, but should demonstrate what happens in phasing. And some ad spawn. So the bad thing that happens is that you transition and then someone pulls aggro and immediately transitions back. And then he phases, and then you keep trying to drag him to the phase you're trying to go. And he phases again, and like you see how many ads there are. This is the issue. So as a tank, to help this transition happen, when you are moving from one phase to the other, just keep dragging it as far as it will go until she phases. It, whatever. Like, you don't just cross the line and stop here and call it good. You just run and you keep running and you keep running until it transitions. So this is the most space possible. And beyond that, it's just on the healers and DPS to make sure that they're in the correct phase, and hunters to make sure that they have a misdirect properly lined up. It's like for the hunters, if you're misdirecting on the next phase transition, you'll stop attacking, you'll get misdirect on the right tank, and you just wait there for him to transition. As soon as he's phased, then you shoot with stuff. These packs, it's probably mostly going to be a group of AoE, except for these, which might be CC'd or might be dragged in and killed. This thing, the skull, has a fear. The Shatterers have a thing you can spell reflect, which reduces armor. If a warrior is ever tanking those, probably will get the druid to tank the fearing mob, the warrior to tank both Shatterers and everything else in the valley. AoE them down.
Well,
yep. Sorry, was there a question or just a hello?
that was a very awkward hello.
Okay, so we are going to have to kill all of these platforms before we get to Lurker. I don't have... Do you have fishing, Emily?
Yes, but do I have a fishing pole?
It
No.
doesn't really matter too much. So, like, little fish down here. We have to kill the platform so the fish stop spawning. For Lurker, it's two phases. One fish boss in the middle, tank and spank. Mostly there's a whole bunch of mechanics, all of which can knock you back. The main tank, is probably going to be here. The only reason to change this is if anyone can find a position where hunter pets do not get completely fucked by this fight, we can reposition the boss around that, else the tank will be here in case they accidentally eat the huge knockback, at which point they just go back into this thing and they don't get sent flying miles. Again, for the tank, pretty much any time that there's a mechanic happening, the well or the spout, you just run forwards. You go underwater, you take some damage from the water, and then as soon as the mechanic's over, you just hop back. So, like spout comes, you just jump in the water, it won't hit you. You can just hop back. Well comes, if you can time it, you can jump in before the well comes. The well does a knockback, knocks you back. Beyond that, it's mostly tank and spank for phase 1. People need to spread out, but we can cover that kind of thing in actual raids. So there's also the raid sheet there's a preliminary one up if anyone's interested in that. In phase 2, there's 2 ads on each of the small platforms around the side, which are just going to get crowd controlled, or at least to start with, they'll get crowd controlled. And around-ish where the 3 marks are, we'll have 3 big ads spawning that the meta are on. So the main tank's going to do 1, probably this one. Next tank will be here, positioned to pick up this ad. Third tank by the triangle ad. They have a cleave, so if you're grouping them up to cleave them down themselves, like you keep the tanks on the inside of the ring, and everyone else goes on the outside, and then people are safe from cleaves. Or you can just kind of leave them where they are. They can be stunned, they can probably be disarmed. It's just, they're simple. It's just as long as you make sure that they don't run around and cause havoc, then you're fine. That's basically this fight. You probably don't need to go super defensive in gear in terms of tanking, especially as the off tank, just barely tanking anything. You can probably go half threat gear. But we don't need to turn the things onto summon bash, but I guess we'll find out. Okay, next bit of trash. These are kind of annoying. These mage-looking mobs, they have to be CC'd or killed first, ideally CC'd. They come in Fire Frost or Arcane variants. The Arcane one is really fucking dangerous. The rest are not too bad, but they AoE like fuck. This thing, the Tidecaller, is a shaman. It drops a totem which spawns an ad, so we have to kill the totem ASAP. There's a rogue style mob that does rogue things and warrior style mobs that do warrior things. They're CC, so we just keep them under control. Don't AoE them down until stuff's outside of CC range. But that's basically those. Or Quagmire Giants, same kind of thing. Lots of small ads spawn, so this is like, again, one of the reasons why melee come out. Because if all those ads spawn in insta aggro, then that's trouble. More of these packs, more of the nether mages to CC. These mobs here, the serpent guards, I have this written down somewhere. What do they do? Spell reflection cleave, kind of nothing. The other mobs though, the Fathom Witch, have a giant knockback effect. So for like this pack, you have 1 tank on both of those. You tank them kind of like here, so then you just get knocked back into the wall. And the other stuff gets brought like way away because it's like a 30-yard AoE, range AoE knockback. I hope I'm not going too quick through any of this, but I don't want to be stuck here for ages. So again, stop me if you want for any reason. Same kind of trash as before. Mage mobs, shaman mobs. The elementals here drop mushrooms that you have to get away from. Maybe I'll stay alive long enough to spawn one. And you'll see what.
There's one behind me.
Yeah, so the totem spawns the elemental. Kill the totem, the elemental dies, or you can banish them. Yeah, mushroom. Rancid mushroom. Stay away. Got to clear this entire room and clear this pack and the patrol before you do the boss. At least you should have to. The boss shouldn't aggro as long as you stay along the side. The boss, 3 mobs. You group them up, you cleave them down, you kick stuff. They're easy. Then you have Leo. The boss likes to drop aggro like every 15, 20, 25 something seconds. Every time he does any mechanic, it's a complete aggro reset. So you don't misdirect on the pull. Apparently he just kills himself. Like you chain the misdirects after every whirlwind and like after every mechanic goes out. So after the first whirlwind, where he like dances around he's a bit like Sartura, but you can't stun him. But it's actually like Sartura with proper scripting and mechanics, not just bullshit. So like you make sure that if possible you have a misdirect after every whirlwind ends, because he can be out of position, he runs very quick during the whirlwind, and the tanks will take a bit of time to catch up. Pally tanks are great for picking up threat afterwards because of ranged abilities. But yeah, like if you're the hunter assigned to misdirect, you just misdirect to any tank that is in range of you. It does not matter which tank. As soon as the whirlwind stops, you want your stuff to be flying through the air. There's also the demon phase, which is warlocks. I assume most of the warlocks either know what to do or have research. I want to say look up Crix on YouTube if you want like actual information on that. He's got way more than I can ever give. The one thing for the warlocks to watch out for is in the final phase, where there's both the ad and the boss alive, like the demon and the elf, I should say. Make sure you're targeting the right one before you go spamming Searing Pain. If you pick the wrong target, then you're gonna be tanking the wrong mob and you're gonna die. Okay, next boss, Fathom Lord. We have a priest, we have a hunter, we have a shaman, and we have the main boss. Gonna tank the skull, the X, and the main boss all together, just somewhere. It doesn't really matter, somewhere kind of perish. Face stuff away as usual. I have it on the raid sheet that the warrior tank is tanking Fathom Lord, and the druid is tanking both the Tidal Vest and Sharkis. And I know that a Pally tank will have better threat on the two mobs that are tanking, but the Shaman mob has Wind of Fury, so the Druid being tanky as fuck is probably the way to go on this, at least early on. So cleave AoE threat might not be like super amazing, but people will just have to watch out for that. Shortly into the fight, an ad is going to spawn, so we'll have one hunter assigned to misdirect the ad to the Druid tank when it spawns, or possibly to the warrior tank. But mostly for those, it's just keep them grouped up, kill them in order. There's totems that you got to kill. There's that's mostly it in terms of mechanics to actually watch out for, except for the priest mob star, who is going to be tanked all the way fucking down here, like all the way in this corner. She spawns these tornadoes that start chasing people, and those are annoying. She also heals, so it's possible that we'll send a rogue down there with them, but probably not worth it. Just one tank, so again, to start with, it'll be the Pally tank, because they are less tanky than the others, and a Resto Shaman, and yeah, good luck. So good luck to them. And the final boss ties last, and like, it's a bit like hiking Morgor. It's like once you survive 30 seconds, then the fight becomes quite easy. And as long as your DPS can stop to killing totems quickly enough, it's quite easy. This next pack, you can see patrolling all the way down the tunnel. Gonna pull those back to here-ish, this sort of cubby. At least that's where I am used to pulling them. Again, these Fathom Witches with the AoE knockback, the Shatterers with the minus armor spell reflect thing. Some god, the one that fears? It might be. No, the middle one, the skull, has a aura that reduces enemy armor, so potentially keeping that separated from everything else so that your other tanks don't get fucked is worthwhile. You pull them back so you can avoid the AoE knockbacks and have room to spread out and be safe and so on. So 2 of these packs. Then Morogrim. I want to say there's 4 packs of these, whatever they're called, Murlocs. Just pull them back to here so you don't accidentally pull the boss. different types of mobs, different types of abilities. The one to watch out for is the warrior. So it's like this dude. Because they have a aggro drop. And so you like trying to assign the warrior tank and the druid tank onto these so that they can actually like recover them. And they also frenzy, they grow to like 3 times the size. You can trank shot it, and it's 100% worth trank shotting it. So if you're a hunter, you see one of these particularly large, even if it's not the target you're shooting, like that. See how quick it's attacking. Trank shot that. That's the other reason that you have individual tanks on those ones, because that much damage on the pally tank while the AoE tanking is kind of a lot. Yep, cover the last pack as well. The boss, there's 2 phases. Phase 1, we're going to tank it kind of here-ish. The tank's kind of off to the side. And the raid is going to be kind of just stacked up behind. The reason I'm doing it, I want to do it here rather than further up towards the tunnel, is so that we the healers who are on the tombs can be down the ramp a bit and still in loss of the rest of the raid. If the raid is starting kind of over here, which you can do, then healers who are on the tombs can only do the tombs. And I think we're going to want the extra help. Excuse me. So this boss is just about two groups of people. It's about the pally tank and it's about the healers doing things properly. The pally tank, there's going to be 12 ads spawn each time he summons ads. Half are going to spawn from this tunnel we've just come from, and half are going to spawn down the other side. The side that's from this tunnel are going to reach the raid first. So you can be on this side, you can drop a consecrate beforehand. You 100% are going to want to land a holy light or 2 on a warlock every time he spawns the ad, so you have healing aggro as well. Which also is why this fight depends on the healers, because every time the ads spawn, he does AoE raid damage to everyone. And as a healer, your job is to not panic, not overheal the raid a lot, and just try and get people's health up high enough that they won't get killed by tombs. But then wait for the ads to will spawn, then get in range, then you can start AoE healing everyone. So that goes on until 20 or 25%. I don't remember. So you kind of be tanking him just like here-ish. Keep slows down for the ads. You kill ads every time they're in. DPS the boss. When he gets to the next phase, it's a tank, you're gonna drag him over here. Backpedal the whole way. This is probably the hardest hitting boss out there in terms of T5. So you've got to wear full tanky gear.
At what time do you move them back?
It's either at 20 or 25%.
Oh, he just enrages or something, or
So
changes how the spawning works.
The mechanic he just did, where he sends enemies to their watery graves, instead of doing that, he summons watery globules and they chase you. And if the raiders here, they despawn before they reach here. So that's why you move him.
Okay. Why couldn't you just do that from the beginning? Or I guess I would be to shoot the ads, huh?
You could. It's getting to see all the mechanics. The ad spawning. You can start with him there, but it means because when he pulls enemies into the graves, like you see where the waterfalls are, it's like four people get transported into these 4, and they will need healing. So you'd have to have like 2 healers all the way down here,
okay,
and the rest of the raid's all the way up there. So it means that like you've only got 3 or 4 healers dealing with the entire rest of the fight. And I think it's just a lot safe, even with the moving part of it being a bit difficult and a bit of a risk factor. I think positioning it here is going to make it a lot easier to reach that phase. So I want to position it here. But yeah, as a tank, like a maximum defensive gear setup, this boss is going to absolutely slap you around.
Is that one tank, or are we using a main tank and then a pally tank for the Murlocs?
It's a 2-tank fight, so the main tank and the pally tank for the Murlocs, and the third tank, you're basically... Like, if you're Druid and you're the third tank, I'd say go in DPS gear, but also have full T4 if you have full T4 by that point. If the pally tank is ever in the Watery Tomb and has not managed to get aggro on the Murlocs before that happens, you're going to have to help pick up the Murlocs before they can just kill the healers. So that's why I say some defensive gear is worth it. In reality, you'd run back the other way rather than kill this trash, but that's there. Did I answer your question sufficiently on that? With the number of tanks on the fight?
Yeah, I just want to double check. The way you're talking, it sounded like the Pally was doing all the work, and I thought there was only one.
The Pally is just on the ads, and like the goal as the Pally tank is to be kiting the ads so well that you're having mana problems, and then you can just deliberately get hit by some of the ads so that you can then get some mana back.
Do you want to mage the waterfall the other side with like rank 1 Blizzard?
Yeah, Imp Blizzard is going to be huge on this fight. It's like the blizzards as the ads are coming in is a thing you'd only use if it's down to the druid to pick them up. Just yell for blizzards. And how you can just have mages kiting them instead of like you tanking them if that's what it comes down to. But yeah, it's unless RNG goes against you. So if RNG is fair, then it's just down to the Pally and doing Holy Lights to Pellagra, and then you've got like either Imp Blizzard or Slow Trap so the Pally can kite them around and not just eat 12 mobs to the face the whole fight. Morgrim, I think, is the boss that is going to cause the most problems outside of the end 2. It's definitely going to be a bit of a learning curve, I think, for the tanks and for the healers. Especially for the healers not healing the Warlock, who is life typing to get healed by the Paladin. But again, that's I know I'm aware that I'm going through a lot, and I don't want to overload with every single boss mechanic and all of that. So it's more of just like making sure that people have an idea of what to do on trash and boss fights, and some of the stuff that's less likely to be on guides. For example, Lady Vash, she's got a big aggro radius. But these tomb things here, these pylons, they block loss. So you can, if you're good about it, you can run all the way in. And also all the way out, though running out is harder. So if you trust your raid, especially as the main tank, you can just position up here and like a healer or two can come with you. And then you poke out and she instantly starts shooting you. So how many levels difference and she still pulled aggro. Phase 1, everyone spreads out in a circle. The main things to watch out for is number 1, make sure you have grounding titans for your main tank. Else this thing happens. The other one is this one, static charge. People need to get away from you. Or you need to get away from them if this is on you. And then there's roots, so you freedom. That's phase 1. Are
the roots magic?
Apparently not, but freedom will get you out of them. Okay, phase 2 is 90% of what the fight is. So she becomes immune, she just starts zapping people. We split the room into anywhere between 4 and 7 sections. I think 4 is going to be sufficient. Some of the guides have 7. So, like, assign people to each quadrant. I'm not 100%. We're probably going to have to like slightly edit this back and forth to work out exactly how many people to send in each segment. I keep fucking up these marks. So it's like, so you have like a ranged and melee covering the entire red X section from like the rock to the next rock. It's like three arcs of the stairs, and then again 1 melee, 1 range covering the entire next section, and the next and the next. So there's 4 types of ads. There's these basic elementals. They do nothing. They have no health. If they reach the boss, she gains the damage buff for the entire rest of the fight. They're the lowest priority. There's the Nagas, wherever we'll get one of those spawning again. They're just tank and spank. Those are the things that the tanks watch out for. The Strider, I think it should horrify people, but on the PTR it was fearing people, which means hunters with cooldowns popped and warriors with Zerk Rage can actually get into melee. It can also be stunned. It can also be netted with the tailoring nets. but these things just need to be kited around. We're going to have the Ellie Shaman kiting them, if possible. If not, get a hunter. If you need a second person around, you're kind of falling behind, but again, hunter. And you occasionally see these poison bolts spawning. It's from the Tainted Elemental, and this is what the phase is all about. Kill it, you loot it, you pick up the Tainted Core, and you should be completely immobilized and unable to move, so you have to throw it to the next person. You throw it to the next person. I can find the damn thing. So I throw it to the next person. Here's the Naga, for example. Just tank and smack someone in the middle.
You tank them to the little thing, right?
The cores, yeah, the goal is to get the core to the pylon. And again, you cannot move if you have the core. Not on live, but on, you know. So you have to throw it to people, and if you throw it to the person who is kiting the strider, then it's basically an insta-wipe. So you have to pay attention to who you're throwing to. You can't just throw it to someone who's in the right direction. It's the one thing that's going to be like the most confusing, and it's going to need the most callouts in Discord, so everything else you kind of need to just be able to handle by itself. It's like you shouldn't have to call out anything about the striders beyond where one is spawning. Same with the Nagas. Eventually you get all 4 cores down. And Vash, who should still be normal size and not be doing 320% of her damage, is phase 3. It's basically the same as phase 1, except there's bats in the sky who drop poison clouds on the ground. You just move out of them, and she will mind control people. And again, the PTR streams that I saw worked out that it was a 20-second long mind control and a 21-second long cooldown. So she'll mind control 3 people. They get released. A second later, people get mind controlled again. Obviously, you try and crowd control them. Sheeps and Fears are amazing. Stuns are good. Cyclones are okay, but obviously, if you cyclone someone, they're immune to other CC while the cyclones last, and they're on DR, so cyclones won't last. It's kind of a last resort thing. The other interesting thing about the mind control people is they're tauntable for some reason, or at least they might be. So if you're a tank on this fight and you're not tanking the boss and you see someone mind controlled, taunt them, especially if they are a melee or a hunter, because they will fuck people up. As usual with mind controls, the mind control people do way more damage, so you know they're a big issue. But yeah, taunt them. It might work. But basically that's it. The other thing to note is if you're a melee on this fight in phase 3, you unequip your weapons, you wait for mind control to go out, you put your weapons back on. As soon as the mind controls end, you unequip your weapons again. Next time mind control goes out, you can put your weapons back on. Obviously this doesn't apply to tanks, but to all the other melee. And no, this is not a joke. This is 100% serious. When you're doing like 500% extra damage and you're wielding a 2-hander and you get mind control and you just turn around and 2-shot or 1-shot the melee next to you, like, it's no fun for anyone. So you take off your weapons.
Is there a weak core for that?
Sorry?
Is there a weak core for that?
I have no idea. I'm sure there's going to be a weak core for like the timing of it. And again, as a tank, you don't have to worry about this. Like, I know that your weapon still accounts for a certain amount of damage as a feral, but
Pheromone works. There's one to de-equip your weapon if you got caught.
You can't. You have to unequip your weapons before the mind control. Is the other thing. So you can't just like cheese it and wait for the mind control to go out. But yeah, it's like a tank in that fight, especially as a druid tank. In phase 3, you're basically just constantly shifting cat form to bear form. Every time a mind control goes out, you probably go bear form and try and taunt people. And then once they're all under crowd control, then you can go back to DPSing, or just stay bear form and DPS or build threat in bear form.
Yeah, I figured you just feral charge, lock one down, bash another one, then down another one.
Yep. Except again, these are going out like every 20 seconds, 21 seconds. So you like taunt when it's a scary person to taunt. Like if a priest or something gets taunted, or gets mind controlled, you know, doesn't really matter too much. Or I guess a priest with fear does matter, but
Can it mind control bears?
probably. I mean, I can't prove it at this point one way or another, but yes, I would assume you can be mind controlled.
I'd say a lot of mind control doesn't work on shifted people.